The life of an assassin is not an easy one. It requires sacrifice, diligence, and selflessness in the quest to ensure peace in all realms. And to be a deadly assassin is another thing entirely. Stealth, lethality, strength, and courage are all characteristics of the best assassins. And in this video, we're going to answer the question, who is the deadliest assassin in Assassin's Creed? So stick around to the end to find out. Oh, and just a quick thing to note before we start, we won't include Hatham, Shay, Alexios, Cassandra, and Ivor in this list. They're definitely some of the most powerful characters in the game, but they aren't technically assassins. But anyways, let's jump right in. Edward Kenway. Protagonist of Assassin's Creed Black Flag and member of the West Indies British Brotherhood of Assassins, Edward Kenway was a feared opponent on the Seven Seas. Kenway was a master of the sword. He got so good with swords throughout his career as an assassin that he began dual-wielding cutlasses, allowing him to take on more opponents during an engagement. He also made use of not one, but 4 flintlock pistols, which gave him plenty of firepower without the need to constantly reload. Now, Edward was a great free runner too. During his time in the Navy, he learned to climb rigs and masts on board ships, and these skills translated well on the land, allowing him to easily climb towers and other buildings. His agility was really something to behold, and virtually no one in that era could keep up with him. However, Edward's strongest skill was his ability to command his ship, the Jackdaw. This boat allowed him to locate treasure hidden under the sea. The Jackdaw was also equipped with a harpooning boat to defend against sharks and other marine creatures. However, we're solely talking about assassins in this video, and in his prime, Edward Kenway wasn't actually an assassin, so it's hard to see him as the deadliest on this list. Jacob Frye. Jacob Frye first appeared in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, and was the only assassin in the series to embrace the gangster lifestyle, as well as held a strong allegiance to the organized crime scene in London. Despite having a shaky ethical background, Jacob Frye was easily one of the deadliest assassins in the game. He and his sister Evie were both raised in the assassin lifestyle since birth, with the sole goal of destroying the Templars. Jacob and Evie would go on to lead the Rooks against the Templar organization, the Blighters. Jacob was a master in a variety of weapon types. He carried the signature hidden blade on him at all times, which he could use with ease to take out enemies silently. His hidden blade also came equipped with a hallucinogenic dart thrower, which would explode into a gas cloud upon impact, taking anyone in the vicinity out instantly. He also frequently used brass knuckles in close quarter situations, giving him access to some nasty takedowns. Jacob Frye also used a cane sword, throwing knives, a revolver, and a kukri blade. Beyond his deadly fighting style, Jacob was a master of stealth. He was capable of eavesdropping on conversations, lockpicking, and pickpocketing unknown suspects. And beyond this, he was an excellent freerunner, able to climb natural and urban landscapes without breaking a sweat. Ultimately, Jacob Frye's power is undeniable. In nearly every situation, he was the most skilled fighter in the room, and with a gang of Londoners behind his back, he proved virtually unstoppable. Evie Frye. Like her brother, Evie Frye was an assassin of the British Brotherhood and was raised to defeat the Templars and liberate London. Evie's story took her to the Shroud of Eden, which contained the first civilization artifact hidden in London. Throughout Assassin's Creed Syndicate, Evie's biggest enemy proved to be Lucy Thorne, the right-hand woman of Crawford Starrick. Evie was a master in stealth combat and preferred to stay hidden in the shadows, unlike her brother who loved open combat. She had a particular proficiency in the hidden blade, which she could use completely silently. Like her brother, she also made use of brass knuckles as well as hidden blades like the cane sword, which she was particularly good at using. In her arsenal, she would also carry smoke bombs and voltaic bombs, which would electrocute enemies to death. Aside from her mastery of silent combat, Evie was an excellent mover. She could scale natural and urban environments with ease and even carried a zipline launcher alongside her hidden blade. She could also swim great lengths. Evie's movements were actually so quiet that guards wouldn't notice her as long as she was still. This in turn allowed her to master pickpocketing and lockpicking skills. Evie was so gifted that she possessed an advanced version of the Eagle Vision ability, being able to see through walls and tag enemies, making her stealthy approach all the more effective. So it's pretty clear that in a stealthy situation, Evie is one of the strongest characters in the game, thanks to her mastery of movement and silent takedowns. Connor. Connor was the protagonist in Assassin's Creed 3, a master assassin of the Colonial Brotherhood and major force in the American Revolutionary War. Connor was one of the biggest assassins in the series, which gave him a big advantage in unarmed combat. He could take on several enemies at a time, overpowering them with just sheer strength. This strength also meant that he could smash locks apart with his bare hands like an absolute badass. In terms of weapons, Connor loved to use the tomahawk and dagger combination, as well as a bow for stealthier scenarios. He's one of the only characters in the game skilled enough to dual wield two weapons, making him a serious contender for the deadliest assassin. And despite his size, Connor was a master infiltrator. He could blend into large crowds and mimic their movements to avoid arousing suspicion. He could climb large buildings with ease, swim long distances, and even swing between trees. Connor is one of the most durable assassins on this list. He can survive explosions, bear attacks, fires, and other major injuries without so much as a scratch. This enhanced his combat even further. However, besides his contributions to the American Revolution, Connor's achievements aren't well documented, so in terms of his feats, he's actually one of the weaker assassins on this list. Arno. The protagonist of Assassin's Creed Unity, Arno Dorian, needs no introduction. He served as an assassin during the French Revolution, ultimately stopping Napoleon from taking control of France. Arno had an incredibly unique fighting style, using swords and sabers as his primary weapon. He became so proficient in the single-handed sword that he could take on multiple enemies simultaneously and dispatch them with ease. Arno also made great use of his hidden blade, frequently using it in open combat as well as stealthy situations, and when things really got heated, Arno used a variety of bombs to take out his opponents. Throughout his time in France, Arno also wielded guillotine guns, a round axe, and even the Sword of Eden. Like other assassins on this list, Arno was a master of stealth. He could sneak up on his enemies without making a sound, which opened up a variety of new angles of attack. His stealth assassinations are also some of the coolest in any of the Creed games, which gives them some extra brownie points. Arno also possessed the ability of Eagle Vision, but mastered it so much that he gained access to two subversions of the skill, Eagle Pulse and Communal Sense. Eagle Pulse allowed for him to see through walls and locate allies and enemies, and Communal Sense allowed his fellow assassins to simultaneously see these points of interest. There's no doubt about it, Arno was a ruthless, skilled, and violently artistic assassin, but his personal ambition did prove too much in the end, which ultimately led him being kicked out of the Brotherhood for good. A man who breaks the Brotherhood code just can't be seen as the deadliest assassin. Ezio. We met Ezio in Assassin's Creed 2, in which we saw the Italian master roam the streets of Florence and Rome, seeking justice wherever he went, and to say he was a badass is an understatement. Ezio's strength in combat lay in the stealthy approach. Instead of engaging his enemies head-on, Ezio made use of two hidden blades, which he used in brutal fashion. He also enjoyed short blade attacks and used throwing knives when at range. During his later years, Ezio developed his eagle vision to new heights, unlocking the eagle's sensibility, allowing him to track enemies and tell innocents and enemies apart. What's more is that Ezio was surprisingly durable. He was seen absorbing not one, but two cannonball strikes during the siege of Vienna. He was even shot with a rifle and came back fighting even harder. But the Italian's biggest strength lay in his free running abilities. This guy could traverse anything, jump over huge gaps, swim without tiring, and sprint faster than anyone in Italy. Even in his 50s, Ezio was making everyone else look slow. In the game though, we do see Ezio begin to decline with age. He could still take on lesser enemies, but his deadliness really started to dip towards the end of his career. Bayek. Bayek is the star of Assassin's Creed Origins, and his strength really lived up to the hype surrounding this franchise installment. Beset in religion and seeking revenge for the death of his son, Bayek had one of the coolest storylines in the game, and the skill to back it up. Bayek was an absolute master of open combat and could engage several opponents at once with ease. He was one of the only assassins to use shields. He wielded swords, bows, and spears alongside. This balance of offense and defense made Bayek a nightmare to face on an open field. And Bayek was no slouch in close quarter combat either. He was proficient at using a hidden blade, giving him opportunities for silent assassinations. He was also great at using the natural environment to hide from larger groups of enemies. And we can't forget about Bayek's free-running skill. This guy could literally scale pyramids. If that's not a testament to your parkour skill, then I simply don't know what is. Bayek was also the first assassin to develop a symbiotic relationship with his eagle. Basically, this meant he could actually see through his eagle eyes, kinda like a warg in Game of Thrones. This ability gave Bayek the upper hand in almost any situation, and he was literally able to get a bird's eye view of the battlefield to see where his opponent was weakest. Altair. Altair was the first assassin that we ever got to play as, starring in the first game of the franchise. He was also the youngest master assassin at just 24 years old. Despite being the first in a long line of characters, Altair was no slouch and was actually still one of the strongest characters. Altair was a master of combat and could engage multiple enemies unarmed. In armed situations, he carried a long sword, short blade, throwing knives, and signature hidden blade, which he was particularly good at using. Where Altair really shone was during free-running events. He could jump great distances, survive huge falls, climb towers, and traverse the toughest terrain without breaking a sweat. Beyond this, Altair was a great artist. Now, I know what you're probably thinking. What does art have to do with assassinating Templars? Well, this skill may not have helped him directly, but his codex showed that Altair uses artistry to draw blueprints for hidden blade modifications, assassination techniques, and even maps. So this was actually one of Altair's greatest skills. So he might have been the first assassin that we got to play, but few other characters have managed to fill Altair's shoes. So it's pretty clear that these assassins are very strong in their own right, but in our view, the strongest has to be Bayek. Bayek was the master of literally every skill and didn't really have a weakness. In open combat situations, he could rely on his spear and shield to take out multiple enemies. We don't believe combat masters like Connor or Jacob could keep up with him on an open field. In stealth missions, his mastery of eagle vision and the hidden blade made infiltration effortless, beating Evie's stealth skills. And if anything didn't go according to plan, he could easily run away thanks to his awesome free-running abilities that could rival the likes of Altair or Ezio. Bayek also had one of the strongest reasons to fight: revenge for the death of his son. This gave him such ruthlessness on the battlefield, and we don't think any other assassin could keep up with him. So, that's everything that you need to know about the deadliest assassins in Assassin's Creed. Let us know who you think the strongest assassin is in the comment below. And if you're looking for more in-depth information about Assassin's Creed, click the link on your screen to check out our video, where we rank every Assassin's Creed game from worst to best. This video will give you more info on each character and tell you where to start if you're looking to get into the franchise. But we'll see you in the next one.